What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about what we could potentially be seeing from the Nemesis system in the Wonder Woman game. Now, there's a couple dots we got to connect. It's not guaranteed, and I want to make sure I'm very open with that in the beginning of the video. This is a patent that we're going to be looking at that talks about some features and additions to the Nemesis system. So we're going to talk all about it, but to say it early and to get out of the way, you can do these things without them actually taking effect. In fact, I've talked about things of PlayStation very much looking at emulation, right? They want to maybe emulate PS2, PS3 games on PS5. Those are in the works potentially. They've licensed them. They have the rights to them legally, but they haven't done anything with them. And this happens in technology, and it happens all across the world all the time. So just to throw that out there, these are things that they're looking to do with the Nemesis system, but it's not a thing that's guaranteed to do, okay? So firstly, a little background info, just in case we're unaware. It's been confirmed, I think, at this point, maybe 3 or 4 different times, the Nemesis system will be in Wonder Woman, right? Now, the Nemesis system, for those that don't know, is owned by WB, right? They claimed it, so nobody else can use it. You can create things like it, but you can't literally use the system that is the Nemesis system, okay? So Monolith, obviously, they're the ones who had a big impact in it. They're using it again for Wonder Woman, and all of that stuff, up to that point is locked in. Okay, so now we go to Themyscira Lore, which is a great Twitter account and somebody who oftentimes drops me some critical info, so I greatly appreciate it. It actually came from Game Rant, and it actually came several days ago, and it says, WB updates its Nemesis system to include factions and followers, and they break down what the Nemesis system is. But the most important part is towards kind of the middle, I guess, of the article. There might be a few new bells and whistles added to the Nemesis system when players see it next, as WB Entertainment Inc. recently filed a patent that could signify some major updates to it. These updates seemingly include the ability to form positive relationships with NPCs who can then be grouped into supporting factions and assist on missions. This could include infiltrating enemy hierarchies like spies, or rescuing the player from certain death if a fight becomes too difficult. And they break down kind of the map, or the diagram is probably a better way of explaining it, right? And now that's it. So I'm not trying to be over here massively clickbaiting people, okay? It's a possibility. I think it is going to happen. To be honest, let's get into the prediction phase of this, right? I really think something like that makes a lot of sense, to be able to include allies, and just that idea of being able to have people maybe infiltrate the enemy. You can imagine things that they can do with that. Picturing Middle Earth, right? Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War. People, I do think, get locked into things or caught up in things, and they do get mad about it being locked behind WB. And trust me, I get it. I absolutely get it. It makes a lot of sense. It would be WB that would do something like this, but ultimately, when you play those games, and Shadow of War had some issues with microtransactions, but the Nemesis system, if you just kind of isolate it as its own thing, is one of the coolest things we've gotten from games in the last, I think it turns 10 years old, Shadow of Mordor, this year. So in the last 10 years, this is probably a top 5 cool mechanic or thing. And, I've talked about Judas that's coming out eventually, and how that game is going to play depending on what you do with these characters. I like these things. I like these kind of systems because you just don't get them all that often. So, whenever we talk about this game, often we're talking about delays. We're talking about when in God's name are they going to show it. We're talking about, is this for some reason going to be a live service game? We're talking about all of these negative things. And to be fair and to be honest, they've never really given us all that much of a reason to talk positive. Well, okay, there is genuine hope from me and genuine excitement. I think I've always made that known. But, it's been a long time since they showed it. I do think they show it this year, but, we don't have a lot to go off of. It just so happens a lot of the stories we talk about are not great. They're negative, right? This at least is a positive. And although it's not guaranteed that this will be in, again, they're just patenting it. They own this kind of right to do this. Nobody can steal it, etc. That's all it means. But it does mean they're looking at something like that, where allies are basically going to be infused into the Nemesis system, which I think would be extremely cool. It's the first time we've gotten a look. I always kind of criticize what in God's name has Monolith been doing, and, as respectful of a way as I can. But what have they been doing since Shadow of War? Well, when we see Wonder Woman together, I really hope it's echoed why it took so long. You know, the length of time it's taken to get this needs to be reflected in the final product. And I'm not saying it needs to be the greatest game of all time, but the Nemesis system is one of the cooler things that's out, or that's been out, and you really need to take another step to make that system as sophisticated as possible. And I think that's really going to help. The reason we talk about it so much is that is almost a make or break thing with one. Now, there's a lot of other make or break things with this Wonder Woman game, but one big one is like if the Nemesis system freaking rocks, you're gonna be probably a pretty safe, like, good game. You might not be an elite game, but you're probably just gonna be a good game just because you have that system down. If it's terrible, you have an upward climb because that's really something that helps you stand out. And then you have to rely on all the other things that might be good, might not be good. Okay, so you let me know what you guys think in the comments. Of course, we'll always be looking, for any news that happens on Wonder Woman. I do think we see it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it this summer, to be honest. But we'll talk about that more as we get closer. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next one.